Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. We're going to pick up where we left off. On our last video, we had just buttoned the cases on this Evolution motor together. So we're really well on our way now. I mean, we got the flywheels are swinging in the cases and everything is good. So let's get started. I'm going to do just a couple of functions, and the reason I'm doing just a couple, I'm checking myself a lot, and I'm reading all the comments, and I'm realizing that I don't always show enough detail, and I'm trying to show more. So we're going to get real detailed on every one of these little things. By the way, if you're enjoying our videos, please remember to subscribe. You'll be notified every time a new video comes out. Okay, we're having fun, so let's get started having fun. Again, the cases are bolted together now. The flywheels are in there and swinging the rods around. All is good. What we need to do is put the cam bearing in. I got a comment the other day. Somebody wrote in a comment. I can't remember his name. I apologize for that. Everyone deserves the respect of their name. And he said, well, you had the cases split. Why didn't you put the cam bearing in? Well, the cases were split. Because there's no advantage to it. You could put the cam bearing in from this side with nothing on the other side of this case. It still wouldn't make any difference. You could watch that cam bearing coming at you if you had a guy putting it in from the other side, but there's no real advantage to it. So we're going to put the cam bearing in. I have a proper cam bearing installer here. We'll get this tool together here real quick. We're not advertising tools, although this particular one is made by Jim's. And it's a great tool. Had it a long time. And now the tool is assembled. So what we need now is a little lube on the tool and on the new cam bearing. Now, before you put the cam bearing in, see if I can show this. Notice that one side of the bearing is flat. That's the outer housing of the bearing. And the other side is rounded. Well, the side that's rounded is the one that we want to use to enter the hole. It'll align itself better. So let's get that bearing. I lubed it up. It's on the tool. So now what we'll do is mount the tool to the case. A couple of 1/4 screws on this Evo case. If you're doing a pan head, a knuckle head, or even an early shovel head, those threads will be 1/4, so be very careful. Now they don't have to be real tight to hold the tool in place, but I'd like it to be nice and flat on the case so that everything registers well. So looking in from the top, can you get a shot from the top there, Mike? Thank you. As I tighten the tool up a little at a time, and I see that the bearing starts into the hole, I'm looking through the lifter block holes. And now we've got the bearing started in there. Now we'll tighten up the tool and push that bearing right into place. Pretty nice. Now I can remember being scared to death to put these bearings in years ago. It's because we didn't have the proper tools. Proper tools make all the difference in the world. Ah, there we go. Get a little more light on the subject. Now this bearing has to go in all the way, and it does stop against the shoulder. at the end of its travel there is a shoulder in the case. And I can feel the tool bottoming out. There it is. We're done. So now we can back the tool off. Pretty easy. And once we get the tool out, we can put the tool away and get on to into our next little project here. Well, same project, different function. Yeah, they're all projects. Okay. Now I actually keep a couple of these screws in the box with the tool, so I don't have to look for a pair of them every time I use the tool. All right. Let me wipe this off real nicely. Put it away. And it'll go back in the cabinet for next time it's used. All right. Now, I've been asked a number of questions about... Okay, let's look at that bearing there. That's in there. It's beautiful. Can you see it in place? Really good now. See, it's below the surface here, just a little bit, so that a cam shim or actually the plate that goes in there does not hit against the bearing. Okay. So I've been asked a number of questions about the main seal here. Now this seal, of course, is for the sprocket shaft side. There's a spacer that goes in there. Now I've shown this before and I'm showing it again, and if I show it more times, it's just like the same way I've learned things. The more times they're explained to me, the more I understand about it, and I hope this is like that too. Okay, the original spacer that's in there is always going to have a line on it where the spacer runs on the seal. Therefore, whenever you're replacing this thing, replace the spacer. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you don't want to spend the money, and you'll be really glad if you do. So I'm going to lube up this seal. I'm just using some assembly lube because that's what's here on the bench. And I'm going to put the spacer inside the seal. Now notice the open side of the seal is facing out. Now the reason for that is because this motor uses a wet primary. It's not a belt primary, it's an original chain primary, and the chain case is full of oil. We don't want that oil running into the motor, so we put the seal on in this direction. If we were running a dry primary with a belt drive in it, or maybe even just an early circulating primary system, we would have the seal on in the other direction. Okay, that being said, I hope everyone understands why the seal is going on in this direction. Sometimes you're trying to keep oil out, sometimes you're trying to keep oil in. In this case, we're keeping it out. Okay, so we have the seal onto the spacer. We have the seal going into place. And there it is going into place beautifully. Now, I'm going to get real spoiled. I'm going to pull another tool out. This is called a engine main seal installer. And this relief in here is big enough to go over this spacer. So we'll slide it in place, and then we'll take my new rawhide mallet, because everyone was picking on me about the old one, and we'll pound it in place. Well, I hate to say it, but we just did it. I'm very pleased. We now have a new cam bearing in. We now have a new main seal on. in, on, and we have our new spacer there. So in our next video, what we'll probably do, maybe we'll install the oil pump and maybe some of the internals in the cam chest. That's probably what we'll do. So that'll be in our next video, and until then, see you out on the road.